Why do you think we have so many issues with marriage these days, and our divorce rate is so high? And like, why are people so unhappy in these relationships? Like, what are we dealing with here?
I love this question, actually. Number one, there's not a single person on earth who has escaped childhood without some scars and some wounds, whether they came at the hands of your immediate family, believe it or not, behind closed doors, in families across America, there is dark stuff happening sometimes. And so kids come out of childhood with their own brand of emotional baggage. And they bring that baggage into their marriage. In fact, they're seeking a marriage partner who will help them heal the baggage. And the example I'll use is this. Let's say that either you or Peter had a really, really dismissive and critical father, a guy that you could never measure up for and who was always holding you to a standard that you couldn't possibly reach at the age of 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever. And so you came out of your family feeling a little bit like you wanted to tear the world apart and become successful to prove that you could. But there's another part of you that still had that place in you that didn't feel like you measured up, because that's the message your dad gave you. So you have a choice when you get married. You'll either be that guy or you'll marry that person. And the way I phrase it all the time is, the woman that has her hands on her hips before you get in the door, and, whose favorite phrase is, honey, we need to talk. And, that strikes fear in the hearts of men across America.
Right. Those words, look out, fellas.
Exactly. So, but this is a real phenomenon. When you get into a marriage, the minute the honeymoon's over, when you're in the kiss of romance and everything is just rosy, everything's great. There's no issues at all. But once you get into daily life and the romance has started to slow down, maybe you've had a baby and other things are going on. You've had to move, you had a job change, you got, stationed in Afghanistan, things happen in a marriage, and loneliness enters, and just, all kinds of things can happen. All of a sudden, these bags start unpacking. And what happens in the marriage is that you're both in reaction to those bags unpacking. The minute she or he is critical, the other person says, wait a minute.
I didn't sign up for that.
Yeah, I didn't sign up for this. Cut it out right now. And there's still that reactive place in you that wanted to smack your dad for being so critical, but you were a little kid. And that wasn't going to be possible. But now you're in a face-to-face relationship with somebody where you can really let them have it with both barrels. And that's really what starts to happen in marriages, is that whatever our material is, it starts to emerge. If you grew up feeling out of control in an alcoholic family, then maybe you're a really controlling person who's always trying to control everything. And, for your spouse, that can be really hard. And each one of our secrets, as I said, has an opposite. And so we address all these issues. We address criticism and control and, all those things that can just enter into the marriage and make it start to feel hard, not as romantic. You lose your edge there. So but at the same time, a marriage that you're feeding, and John has these trees behind us because in the center of the story is a beautiful fable, and the fable has a tree at the center of a marriage. And you're either feeding the marriage or you're starving the marriage by the way that you behave and the way that you bring yourself to the marriage. And so each secret is about giving. It's still about the same concepts of the original Go-Giver, adding value to your spouse's life. That's powerful, because if you're continually looking for ways to give to your spouse, this is not about martyrdom or about being a doormat. It's about actually feeding the marriage, because we have this symbol in the book. It's 2 circles and they intersect. And in the place where they cross, there's a third entity and a little elliptical space. And so there's each individual, both separate, but then there's the marriage itself. And it's like a third entity in the room that you're either feeding or you're starving. And so that's one of the premises underneath the book is, you have an opportunity to take care of your marriage in a way that will allow healing to happen when those issues come up. Because with compassion and kindness and a certain degree of emotional intelligence about what you're doing together, it doesn't matter what comes up. You can talk it through. You can heal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just want to piggyback what Anna said. By when the two of you are in stress, or let me say that more accurately, when the two of you become in conflict, even in little ways, in small ways, just a little bit of criticism or a little bit of irritation or a little bit of defensiveness, whatever the situation. When you get into a situation of conflict, now there's you and me in the room. It's just two of us. When you get into a situation of interaction, collaboration, empathy, of generosity, of sharing something that you enjoy, then this thing occurs that I was talking about, which is the us. She says that the overlap, the marriage, Anna calls it the us. So there's you and there's me, and there's this thing called the us. And the whole idea is all these dysfunctional patterns that we brought them from childhood, or we learned them from peers, or from movies or TV, or wherever we got them from, social media, who cares, wherever they came from. These dysfunctional patterns all starve the us. They all focus on the me. They all focus us on ourselves, on our suffering, on how we've been wronged by the other party. And what we're trying to do is shift the focus from me to us.